The life of Vivien Leigh, perhaps best known as the heroine of Gone with the Wind and A Streetcar Named Desire, was dramatically cut short as a result of psychiatric misdiagnosis and violent treatment. Her troubles began in 1945 while performing on Broadway. She experienced attacks of hysteria, alternating with bouts of exhaustion and exhilaration. Diagnosed with tuberculosis, she spent 6 weeks in a hospital before being sent home to recover over the following year. One of the drugs she was taking for TB had side effects that included mental confusion and toxic psychosis. So in the early 1950s, she began seeing a psychiatrist. Typically, psychiatrists don't check for physical illness or drug-induced mental behavior. So when she began to experience drug-induced hallucinations while filming, her psychiatrist admitted her to a psychiatric hospital. What followed can only be described as torture. Upon arrival, she was packed in ice as part of her treatment and subjected to repeated brain-damaging electroshock. It was the first of many terrors that would affect her permanently. One time, she even suffered burn marks to her head from the electricity of the shock treatment. Also known as ECT, or electroconvulsive therapy, electroshock is the firing of up to 460 volts of electricity through the brain. It's been proven to cause permanent and irreversible memory loss and brain damage. Instead of curing so-called mental illness, it causes intellectual impairment. It is a massive assault on the brain and causes hundreds of deaths each year.
How is electric shock therapy done?
We use these electrodes. We place them on the patient's head like this, and then by means of this machine, we pass a controlled electric current through the brain, just for a fraction of a second. The patient doesn't feel it.
The story behind this miracle cure began in a Roman slaughterhouse.
In Italy, in 1938, two Italian psychiatrists decided to observe that before slaughtering pigs, in order to make the pigs more docile, they would apply electrodes to their temples that were hooked up to wall current, and that this stunned the pigs, but it didn't kill them, and they could then slaughter them. Well, this gave them the encouragement to try inducing convulsions with electricity.
We would see teeth falling out, broken spines, bones knocked out of joint, broken bones, and people even getting internal organ damage from being restrained while they were having these uncontrolled, writhing seizures, convulsions.
Many patients have been returned to their homes and jobs who might still be here if it were not for this helpful form of treatment.
After the shock treatment, Vivien Leigh's husband, Sir Laurence Olivier, said that she wasn't the same girl he had married and was now more of a stranger than he could ever have imagined possible. In addition to the electroshock treatments, her psychiatrist began treatment with powerful psychiatric drugs, especially dangerous since they combined with her tuberculosis medication. By May 1967, her medical doctor informed her that the TB had spread to both lungs and her condition was critical. Her strength destroyed by years of electroshocks and psychiatric drugs, she was gone in less than 2 months. Another Hollywood icon, child actress turned superstar Judy Garland, achieved international fame at an early age. However, the price and pressures of such fame were high. To control her weight, she was prescribed antidepressants and amphetamines. And to help her sleep, she was prescribed barbiturates. As she became more and more addicted to the drugs, they progressively took a greater hold of her life. Her behavior on the film set became erratic and disruptive. As later medical evidence showed, the drugs were gradually destroying her physically, and when she attempted to do without the pills, the result was a physical pain and a sense of suffocation that became so intense that she had to resume taking the drugs. Under a psychiatrist's orders, she began the first of many stays in psychiatric hospitals. And at the age of 27, she was subjected to the violence and degradation of electroshock. Several years later, her drug-induced health problems became critical. She was admitted to the hospital with her liver and spleen massively swollen and her whole body poisoned with fluids. 7 weeks later, she checked out with prescriptions for Valium, Thorazine, and at one time, 40 pills of Ritalin a day. Even though she was quoted as saying her years of analysis hadn't helped her and that she had no respect for psychiatrists, it was a realization that came too late. On June 15, 1969, Garland performed on stage for the last time at the Half Note Club in Greenwich Village. 6 days later, she died of a psychiatric drug overdose. If you'd like to have free information on psychiatry harming artists, please call the toll-free number on your screen. We'll be right back after this public service announcement.
When I was walking home from school, they asked me for my money. I said no.
And all my friends ran home because they were scared he might punch them too.
I was screaming, but he just wouldn't stop.
He always said he would hit me. I just didn't think he actually would.
I don't know what I did, but they just kept on kicking me.
They tied me up and dragged me outside. They stripped me of my dignity.
She said she was going to teach me a lesson.
He said I wasn't listening. I didn't think he'd get so mad.
Anybody out there? This isn't right. Why don't you just tell me what I did, please? Can somebody just tell me? God, I should talk to somebody. Let me go.
I believe in nature.
I believe in the spirit.
I believe in trust. Beauty.
I believe in my mom.
Strawberry ice cream.
Fortune cookies?
Chocolate. I believe in the tooth fairy.
Being honest with yourself.
I believe in Santa Claus.
Aliens, of course. I believe what I want to believe.
I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
I believe in peace.
One of the greatest losses to contemporary American literature was the suicide of Ernest Hemingway. Tricked into a psychiatric institution, he was stripped of his clothes and his dignity and given a series of 20 electroshocks. A few weeks later, he was quoted as saying, "What's the sense of ruining my head and erasing my memory, which is my capital, and putting me out of business? It was a brilliant cure, but we lost the patient." In July of 1961, days after being released from the Mayo Psychiatric Clinic, Hemingway committed suicide. As damaging as all psychiatric procedures are, including brain-damaging drugs and the searing of the brain with hundreds of volts of electricity during electroshock, the worst by far is the cutting into the brain itself in the barbaric psychiatric procedure of prefrontal lobotomy.
The whole operation took about 8.5 hours. And they kept me awake for every second of it. And I remember every second of it. And I still remember it to this day because I have this operation every day of my life. Whether I like it or not, I have it.
Psychiatrists still tout the benefits of lobotomy, a treatment that earns them $31 million annually.